There's a moment, quiet and invisible, that exists between what happens to you and how you respond to it. That small space, that fraction of a second where your heart races and your mind begins to react. That's where your power truly lives. Most people never realize this. They spend their lives reacting to the world, letting external events decide their emotions, their peace, even their sense of self. But what if I told you that everything could change if you learned to master that moment? That's what emotional control is about. Not suppressing your feelings, not pretending you don't care, but learning to separate what happens outside you from what happens within. It's the art of choosing your inner response instead of being dragged around by circumstance. It's the foundation of a Stoic mindset, a way of living where you stop fighting the things you can't control and start mastering the one thing you can, yourself. Think about it. You can't stop the world from being chaotic. You can't stop people from judging you, the weather from changing, or life from throwing problems your way. But you can always choose how you interpret it. You can always choose how to control your emotions, how to respond rather than react. That's the secret of freedom that philosophers like Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius spoke about centuries ago. And it's as relevant today as it was in ancient Rome. We live in a world that constantly demands our reactions. Every notification, every headline, every social media comment is designed to provoke emotion. Outrage, envy, fear, desire. The modern world profits from our inability to stay calm. But if you want to live with true inner peace, if you want to master your mind, you have to take that power back. You have to learn to focus on what you can control. That's not easy. It requires practice. It requires awareness. It requires you to slow down and notice when your emotions begin to take over. Most of us react automatically. A rude message makes us angry. A setback makes us discouraged. A compliment makes us proud. But emotional control doesn't mean ignoring these feelings. It means understanding them, recognizing that your judgment about an event, not the event itself, is what causes suffering. Let's say someone criticizes you unfairly. Instinctively, you might feel hurt or defensive. But pause for a moment. Ask yourself, is this really about me? Or is it just their opinion? Can I control their words? No. Can I control how I perceive them? Absolutely. That's the difference between reacting and responding. React versus respond, it's a simple distinction, but it changes everything. Reaction is instinct. Response is wisdom. When you begin to respond with awareness instead of reacting with emotion, you start living differently. You feel lighter. You feel calmer. You start to realize that peace isn't something you find outside. It's something you build inside. That's inner peace philosophy in action. And it begins with the decision to stop letting emotions control you. You might ask, but how do I do that? How do I stop feeling anxious, angry, or afraid? The truth is, you can't stop feelings from appearing, but you can stop feeding them. You can stop giving them power. Emotions are like waves, they rise and fall naturally. The more you resist them, the stronger they crash. The more you observe them calmly, the faster they pass. This is how to control your emotions, not by fighting them, but by understanding them. Imagine your mind as a calm lake. When you let emotions rule you, every little stone that falls, a problem, a comment, a delay, creates ripples that disturb the surface. But when you master your mind, those stones still fall. Only now, the water returns to stillness faster. The event hasn't changed, only your relationship with it has. That's why Stoicism isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming emotionally intelligent. It's about realizing that peace isn't the absence of emotion. It's the mastery of it. Marcus Aurelius, who faced war, betrayal, and loss, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." These are not just ancient words. They're instructions for life. Control what you can. Let go of what you can't. There's a story about Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher who was once a slave. He couldn't control his freedom, his conditions, or the cruelty of his master. But he realized one thing: his thoughts were his own. He could choose how to interpret pain. He could choose his reaction. And in that choice, he was free. His body was enslaved, but his mind was untouchable. That's the essence of Stoic mindset, a kind of unshakable peace that no external force can destroy. Today, we might not be slaves in the same sense, but many of us are prisoners of our emotions. We get angry at traffic, anxious about the future, jealous of others, and we call it normal. But normal doesn't mean healthy. Normal doesn't mean wise. Emotional control is not about becoming robotic. It's about reclaiming your power from the chaos. It's about living intentionally instead of being pushed around by impulses. If you think about it, every time you lose control of your emotions, you give someone or something power over you. You let a stranger's words ruin your mood. You let a delay destroy your patience. You let circumstances dictate your peace. But when you choose to focus on what you can control, that power returns to you. You become centered. You become calm, no matter what happens outside. Think about anxiety, for example. Stoicism for anxiety doesn't mean pretending you're not worried. It means acknowledging that you're worried, but then asking, is this within my control? If the answer is no, you let it go. If the answer is yes, you take calm, deliberate action. Either way, you remain grounded. You stop being a victim of your thoughts. That's how you master your mind, through awareness and choice. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a practice. Every time life tests you with anger, fear, or frustration, that's your opportunity to practice emotional control. You can either let your emotions lead you, or you can lead them. You can either react automatically or respond consciously. One path leads to peace. The other leads to chaos. You might not realize it, but this is the foundation of true strength. Controlling your emotions doesn't make you weak. It makes you unstoppable. When you stop letting emotions control you, people notice. They feel your calm. They trust your judgment. They sense something different in you. A quiet confidence that doesn't need to prove itself. That's the kind of presence great leaders, thinkers, and philosophers carried. It's not arrogance. It's clarity. The modern world tells you to express everything, to speak your truth immediately, to follow your feelings. But feelings are temporary. They're signals, not instructions. If you let every emotion drive your action, you'll live in constant turmoil. Stoic philosophy teaches you to pause, to examine, to decide not to react. That's the bridge between chaos and serenity. It's easy to get angry. It's easy to complain. It's easy to blame the world. But mastery comes from restraint. It comes from choosing peace when you could choose anger. It comes from seeing clearly when everyone else is blinded by emotion. That's what it means to focus on what you can control, your thoughts, your actions, your attitude. Everything else is noise. And the moment you truly understand that, your life changes. You stop expecting the world to be calm so that you can be calm. You stop waiting for people to act right so that you can feel right. You stop chasing external peace and start creating inner peace. That's freedom, not the kind you can touch, but the kind you can feel deep in your soul. When you control your emotions, you stop being a puppet of circumstances. You become the author of your story. You begin to live intentionally, not emotionally. You stop saying, "They made me angry," and start saying, "I allowed anger to rise, but I chose peace instead." You start to realize that nothing outside you has the power to shake you unless you give it permission. This kind of strength doesn't come from being cold or detached. It comes from deep self-awareness. It comes from understanding that you're not your emotions. You're the observer behind them. You're the space in which they appear and disappear. The more you realize that, the more you experience peace, even in chaos. And this peace doesn't make you passive, it makes you powerful. Because when you're calm, you see clearly. You make better decisions. You speak with purpose. You act with integrity. You stop wasting energy on what doesn't matter. You live lighter. That's the beauty of mastering your emotions. It doesn't just change how you feel, it changes how you live. So, the next time life tests you, when someone cuts you off in traffic, when a plan fails, when you face rejection or uncertainty, pause, take a breath. Remember, this moment is not happening to you. It's happening for you. It's a chance to practice control, to strengthen your mind, to choose your response. That's the true art of emotional control. That's how you master your mind and find peace in a noisy world. Because in the end, peace isn't about escaping life's storms. It's about learning to stand in the rain, unshaken. It's about realizing that the calm you've been searching for has been within you all along. There's a truth that most people spend their entire lives trying to escape. You can't control the world. You can't control what happens outside of you. Not the weather, not the economy, not what people say or do. But there's something far more powerful that you can control, and that's your reaction, your judgment, your inner world. This is the heart of emotional control. It's not about becoming cold or detached. It's about mastering your mind. The Stoic mindset teaches us that peace doesn't come from changing the world, but from changing how we see the world. The storms outside don't define us. It's how we navigate through them that shows who we truly are. You see, when we try to control the uncontrollable, we suffer. We fight against reality, and reality always wins. But when we focus on what we can control, our thoughts, our choices, our reactions, life begins to change. The chaos doesn't disappear, but it no longer shakes us. Think about the last time someone upset you. Maybe they said something cruel, ignored your message, or treated you unfairly. The first impulse is usually anger, frustration, or disappointment. But pause for a second. Where does that emotion really come from? It's not from what they did, but from what you think about what they did. It's your judgment that creates the pain. That's why the Stoics said, "Men are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them." It's not the event that hurts, it's our interpretation. That's what react versus respond is all about. A reaction is automatic. It's emotion taking the wheel. But a response, a conscious one, that's where your power lies. When you respond, you choose awareness over impulse. You choose peace over chaos. Imagine a man walking through a storm. The wind is strong, rain pouring down, but he keeps walking calmly. He doesn't scream at the clouds or curse the sky. He simply walks, knowing that he can't control the storm, only his steps. That's mastery. That's emotional control. And here's the thing, this doesn't mean you suppress your emotions. It means you understand them. You feel anger, but you don't let it define your actions. You feel fear, but you don't let it dictate your choices. You become the observer, not the prisoner of your emotions. This is the path of mastering your mind. There's incredible peace in realizing you don't have to react to everything. You don't need to fight every battle. You don't need to convince every person or fix every situation. Most people spend their days trying to control everything around them. Other people's opinions, outcomes, timing. But the truth is, the only thing you'll ever truly control is what happens inside you. And that's more than enough. When you stop giving energy to what's outside your control, something magical happens. Your anxiety fades. You stop living in constant resistance. You begin to experience what the Stoics called ataraxia, inner peace. That's the essence of Stoicism for anxiety. Not denying your emotions, but understanding that external chaos doesn't have to become internal chaos. Let's take a real example. You're stuck in traffic. The car in front of you cuts in without signaling. Your instinct, frustration, anger, maybe a few words you wouldn't want recorded. But then you remember you can't control how others drive. You can only control your reaction. You breathe. You let it go. You turn the moment into practice, a small training ground for peace. That's emotional discipline. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. Every time you choose calm over anger, patience over irritation, you're building strength. You're proving to yourself that peace is not a gift. It's a skill. And here's the deeper truth. Emotional control isn't just about staying calm. It's about freedom. When you depend on external things to feel okay, you become a slave to them. When people's opinions determine your mood, when events decide your peace, you've handed your power away. But when you learn to control what you can, your mind, your choices, your perspective, you take that power back. Think of your mind like a fortress. The world outside can roar, but if the walls are strong, nothing gets in. You decide what enters your thoughts. You decide what deserves your energy. You decide which emotions are worth feeding. This is why the Stoics emphasized master your mind. because everything begins there. Every emotion, every reaction, every decision, all start in your mind. When you control your mind, you control your life. Many people think control means suppressing feelings. But suppression isn't control, it's denial. True control is awareness. It's saying, I feel this anger, but I won't act from it. It's saying, I see this fear, but I'll still take the step. That's strength. That's wisdom. The modern world constantly challenges this. News, social media, opinions, noise. Everything tries to pull our attention outward. We're told to react, to take sides, to feel outrage. But the Stoic mindset invites us to pause, to observe before reacting, to remember that peace doesn't mean passivity, it means clarity. Every day, life will test your emotional control. Someone will misunderstand you. Something won't go as planned. A dream might take longer than you hoped. But remember this, those things aren't against you, they're for you. They're opportunities to practice strength, patience, and serenity. When you train your mind to focus on what you can control, you stop wasting energy on what you can't. That's the key to happiness, to inner peace philosophy. Not a life without problems, but a life without unnecessary suffering. Here's a practice. Next time something irritates you, take one deep breath before responding. Ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, let it go. If the answer is yes, act with wisdom, not emotion. That single pause can change everything. This is how you learn how to control your emotions. Not by never feeling, but by feeling deeply and still choosing peace. There's a quiet power that comes from understanding this truth. No one can truly make you feel anything without your permission. When someone says something hurtful, their words enter your ears, but it's your mind that gives those words meaning. You decide whether to take offense, to stay calm, or to let them go. That's the space where your freedom lives. Most people don't realize this. They move through life reacting to everything. A comment, a delay, a disappointment. They're like leaves blown by the wind, carried in every direction by things outside their control. But once you see that your reactions are your choice, you stop being the leaf and become the wind. That's what emotional control really means. It's not suppression, it's liberation. It's the ability to stay grounded no matter what happens. It's being the calm eye in the middle of life's storm. And yes, it takes practice, takes awareness, takes patience. But every moment of awareness brings you closer to mastery. Think about how many times your day is shaped by things that don't deserve your energy. The slow driver in front of you, the rude coworker, the plan that didn't go as expected. You can either let those moments dictate your emotions, or you can breathe, observe, and choose your response. You can remind yourself, focus on what you can control. And what can you truly control? Your thoughts, your perspective, your words, your effort. That's it. But that's also everything. Because the moment you accept that, anxiety begins to fade. You stop carrying the weight of the world. You stop expecting life to be fair, people to be perfect, and plans to unfold exactly as you imagine. You replace frustration with acceptance, not resignation, but strength. That's the essence of Stoicism for anxiety. When you stop demanding the world to be different, peace becomes possible. You don't deny reality, you dance with it. You move with the flow of what is, instead of fighting what you wish it to be. Imagine waking up tomorrow, and before you touch your phone, you take a deep breath and remind yourself, today I control only my mind. Not the traffic, not the weather, not other people's moods. Just my mind. You start your day lighter, calmer, stronger. That's how you master your mind. And here's the secret most people never learn. Emotional control doesn't make you less human. It makes you more alive. Because instead of being trapped in endless reactivity, you finally have the space to choose how to live. When someone insults you, you can respond with kindness. When plans fall apart, you can see an opportunity instead of a disaster. When fear arises, you can face it with courage instead of avoidance. That's real power, not the power to dominate others, but the power to govern yourself. The Stoics often compared life to a play. You can't choose your role, the script, or the stage, but you can choose how you perform. So if you're playing a humble role today, play it with dignity. If the scene is full of difficulty, act with courage. Because in the end, peace comes not from the role itself, but from the way you play it. Let's be honest, emotional control is not easy. It's simple in theory, but hard in practice. It requires catching yourself in the moment, right before the reaction happens. It requires remembering that anger won't fix the situation, that worry won't prevent problems, that fear won't protect you. It's training your mind to pause when it wants to explode. But that pause, that single breath between stimulus and response, is where your life changes. It's the moment where you go from react versus respond. And that's where your peace is built. Every time you choose response over reaction, you reinforce the belief that you are not your emotions. You have them, you feel them, but you are not ruled by them. That's how you don't let emotions control you. Because emotions are like weather, they come and go. Some days you'll feel bright and confident. Others you'll feel heavy and uncertain. But no storm lasts forever. The sun always returns. Your job is not to control the weather. It's to keep walking, knowing that blue skies will come again. The mind, though, loves to cling. It replays the insult. It imagines the worst. It exaggerates the problem. That's where suffering grows, not in reality, but in our imagination. We suffer more in thought than in truth. The Stoics knew this well. They practiced premeditatio malorum, imagining the worst-case scenario, not to invite fear, but to remove its power. They'd think, what if I lose what I love? What if things go wrong? And through that, they learned acceptance. They realized that even if everything was taken, they still had control over one thing, their mind. And that meant freedom could never be stolen. You can practice this too. When something worries you, pause and ask, if this happens, will I still be me? Will I still have my thoughts, my choices, my values? If the answer is yes, then peace is possible, no matter what. Emotional control is also about humility. We often think we know how life should unfold, who should love us, what job we should have, how things should go. But we don't see the bigger picture. Sometimes life removes something not to punish you, but to redirect you. Sometimes the closed door is protection, not rejection. So instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Try asking, what is this teaching me? That shift from victim to student transforms everything. That's the inner peace philosophy. You stop trying to win every argument, to prove yourself, to control outcomes. You begin to trust the process. You begin to understand that everything temporary, both joy and pain, is part of your growth. And with that understanding, you become lighter. You no longer carry every emotion as a burden. You begin to flow. It's not that you don't feel sadness, anger, or frustration. You do. But you also see them as passing guests, not permanent residents. You can say, here's anger. I see you. I know why you're here, but I won't serve you tea. You acknowledge the feeling, but you don't let it drive your actions. That's the art of detachment, not indifference, but clarity. And slowly, you start to notice something incredible. The less you react, the more you understand. The quieter your mind becomes, the more clearly you see. And in that clarity, peace emerges not as a goal, but as a natural state. Because peace isn't something you chase. It's what remains when you stop resisting what is. Now, imagine living your life that way, moving through each day with calm awareness, knowing that nothing external has the power to shake your inner world. You'd be unstoppable. Not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. That's what it means to control what you can. It's not control over others, but over yourself, your habits, your focus, your reactions. And when you master that, the rest of life aligns naturally. So the next time you face something hard, a broken plan, a harsh word, a personal loss, remind yourself, this is outside my control, but my response is mine. Then choose that response with intention, with grace, with wisdom. That's how you live with a Stoic mindset. Over time, you'll notice how different your life feels. You'll find yourself less anxious, less reactive, less tired from fighting things that don't deserve your fight. You'll feel more space, mental, emotional, spiritual. That space is peace. That space is strength. That space is you. And when you start living from that space, people notice. They'll sense your calm, your groundedness, your energy. They'll wonder how you stay so centered when things go wrong. And maybe, without saying a word, you'll inspire them too, to look inward, to take back control, to find peace within. Because emotional control isn't just for your own benefit. It ripples outward. Your calm becomes contagious. Your presence becomes a refuge. And in a world driven by reaction and noise, your stillness becomes your greatest power. There's a moment, somewhere along the path of learning emotional control, when you realize something powerful. Peace has nothing to do with circumstances. It's not about the noise outside, it's about the silence inside. And when that silence becomes stronger than the chaos around you, you begin to live differently. Most people wait for peace. They wait for things to calm down, for people to change, for life to finally make sense. But peace doesn't come when things are perfect. It comes when you stop needing them to be. That's when you begin to master your mind. This is what the Stoics meant when they said that the wise man is free no matter his situation. Because even if everything outside is taken, money, reputation, comfort, what truly matters can't be touched. Your thoughts, your integrity, your character, those are yours alone. When you live with that awareness, you move through life with a quiet confidence. You stop rushing, you stop competing, you stop chasing validation. You realize that the goal is not to control the world, but to control yourself within the world. And that is real strength. Let's imagine something together. You wake up tomorrow and everything goes wrong. You spill your coffee, you're late for work, someone criticizes you online, and your plans fall apart. Most people would call that a bad day. But if you carry a Stoic mindset, it's simply a day, nothing more, nothing less. You observe. You breathe. You remind yourself, I can't control the events, but I can control my reactions. And so, instead of frustration, you choose patience. Instead of anger, you choose humor. Instead of stress, you choose acceptance. By the end of that day, you've trained your mind more than 100 books could ever teach you. Because wisdom isn't built in comfort. It's forged in challenge. And this is where the journey becomes meaningful. The more you practice, the more you see that every difficulty is a teacher, every delay a lesson, every loss an invitation to grow. Life stops being something that happens to you and becomes something that happens for you. When you start to live this way, your relationship with emotions changes. You no longer see anger as an enemy or sadness as weakness. You see them as signals, messengers from your inner world. They whisper, pay attention. They remind you of what still hurts, what still matters, what still needs healing. You listen, you learn, and you let go. That's how emotional control becomes emotional wisdom. Now, let's talk about freedom. People think freedom means doing whatever you want. But that's not true freedom, that's impulse. Real freedom is the ability to act with awareness, to feel anger and choose kindness, to feel fear and still move forward, to have desire, but not be enslaved by it. That's true mastery. That's true peace. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's about transforming them. It's taking the fire of anger and turning it into strength. It's taking the weight of sadness and turning it into compassion. It's taking the uncertainty of fear and turning it into courage. That's what the great philosophers and Stoics were teaching all along, the alchemy of the soul. And this alchemy happens not in grand moments, but in the quiet, ordinary ones, when you choose to stay calm during traffic, when you breathe before responding, when you forgive instead of resenting. Those moments build the foundation of your character. One of the greatest misconceptions about emotional control is that it makes you detached or unfeeling. But in truth, it makes you more capable of love, empathy, and connection. Because when you are no longer ruled by your emotions, you can meet others with patience and understanding. You can listen without reacting, speak without judging, and love without fear. You stop demanding that people behave a certain way to make you happy, and instead, you bring happiness into every interaction. That's the beauty of focus on what you can control. When you take responsibility for your inner state, you stop blaming others for your emotions. You become the creator of your own peace. And soon, that peace starts to touch every area of your life. Your relationships become calmer. Your work becomes more meaningful. Your mind becomes clearer because you've stopped fighting battles that were never yours to fight. Even when the world around you feels uncertain, and it always will, you remain steady. You become the still point in a spinning world. People will feel it. They'll sense your grounded energy and wonder how you stay so composed while others panic. You won't need to explain. Your presence will speak louder than words. That's the silent influence of a mind that's mastered itself. It's interesting, the more control you develop within, the less you crave control outside. You stop forcing outcomes, manipulating situations, or chasing perfection. You learn to trust, not in luck or fate, but in your own ability to adapt, to respond, to endure. That trust becomes your anchor in every storm. And yes, storms will come. Life will continue to test you, loss, uncertainty, failure, change. But when those moments arrive, you'll remember this truth. You've been here before. You've faced storms and survived. And now, you don't just survive, you grow through them. You understand that the storm isn't here to destroy you. It's here to strengthen your roots. So, the next time you feel overwhelmed, try this. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and tell yourself, this feeling is temporary. This challenge is my training. I can't control what's happening, but I can control who I become through it. Repeat it until it feels real, because it is. That's how you don't let emotions control you. That's how you transform chaos into clarity. And remember, mastery doesn't mean perfection. You'll still have moments of anger, frustration, fear. You'll still make mistakes. But instead of judging yourself, you'll smile and say, "Ah, I see the lesson." You'll stand up faster, recover sooner, and learn deeper. That's growth. That's evolution. The real reward of emotional control isn't the absence of emotion. It's the presence of peace. It's waking up with calm energy. It's walking through life with quiet confidence. It's knowing that no matter what happens, you have everything you need within you. That's the true meaning of inner peace philosophy. It's not about avoiding life. It's about embracing it fully, with all its messiness, unpredictability, and beauty. Because once you understand that peace is an inner state, not an outer condition, you stop chasing it and start living it. The world will always be noisy, unpredictable, and sometimes cruel. But your response, your calm, your patience, your strength, that's your art. And every day you get to paint your masterpiece again. So as you move forward, remember this. You can't always control what happens to you, but you can always control what happens within you. You can't choose every event, but you can choose your attitude. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. And in that dance between acceptance and effort, you'll find freedom. This is the path of the Stoic. Not cold, not distant, but wise, steady, and deeply alive. Someone who feels everything, but is enslaved by nothing. Someone who walks through life with grace, not because the road is smooth, but because they've learned to walk with balance. So when you face your next challenge, take a breath and whisper to yourself, I control my mind, I control my reactions, I control my peace, and let that truth guide you through the day. Because in the end, peace isn't something you find, it's something you build. One choice at a time, one breath at a time, one moment at a time.